What is up, everybody? Today we have a very special event we want to talk about, which is the Bitcoin halving. So, in about 10 days, the biggest notable thing for Bitcoin is happening. Basically, what this Bitcoin halving is they will be cutting the supply of Bitcoin in half. Now, this is huge because it may increase the demand of this coin. The Bitcoin block reward halving, which basically, in essence, will cut down the mining rate in half. So as you can see right now, 12.5 coins per block will now decrease to 6.25 blocks after this halving. Because as you know, there will only be 21 million Bitcoins max supply forever. And so like money and other things have a inflation, Bitcoin actually has a deflation over time, which makes Bitcoin one of the first ever things to have a predictable monetary supply. That's huge. So in about 10 days, for the third time ever, one coming in 2012, one in 2016, and the other one coming up now in 10 days, in May 2020, Bitcoin will do their halving, which basically per block, which is about every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin mining will be cut in half. So instead of making 12.5 coins per every 10 minutes, Bitcoin will now make 6.25 coins every 10 minutes, cutting it exactly in half. Now it should be noted that the last Bitcoin will not be mined until the year 2140, so 2140. And that is huge because it shows us how young, how early we are in this process of Bitcoin, in the sense by during that time will be long gone, sadly. And if you're still a little confused on this, let's go ahead and dive into another type of perspective on this. So in this website, Decrypt, basically says that today around 1,800 new Bitcoins are minted each day, worth around $11 million. That's going into the ecosystem. But after the next halving, this will drop down to just 900 Bitcoins a day. So the supply is going to be a lot less after this halving. And most of these 1,800 Bitcoins that are made daily are dumped daily straight into the volume. Miners are constantly dumping Bitcoin. But this does mean that it takes about $11 million coming into the ecosystem every day for the price just to stay the same. But after the next 10 days, when this Bitcoin halving comes down, it'll cut this 1,800 Bitcoins into 900 Bitcoins, which will relatively drop the price of the ecosystem of, in sense, 11 million to about 5.5 million a day that will be coming in. And that's huge. That's a massive supply shock to the ecosystem. And we've been seeing that Bitcoin has actually been having a pretty healthy growth to itself. You know, despite this big jump, it's been having a great growth. If the demand stays the same and the supply is cut in half, what's going to happen to this big price of Bitcoin? What's that going to mean for you? In today's video, I'm going to give you some real perspectives right here on what you can expect with this Bitcoin halving. So hit the like button if you haven't already, subscribe, and let's go ahead and jump straight into this prediction. Now, with all this awareness of this Bitcoin halving coming out, a lot of people are expecting Bitcoin to jump tremendously once this Bitcoin halving happens. However, what I expect will happen the day of the Bitcoin halving is the price at this day will do nothing. I believe it will stay the same. However, and if we look at this halving right here and this other halving, the price relatively stayed the same that day of. Now we see this big jump right here and this big jump right here, and relatively we can expect a pretty bull market right on this quarter too. However, if we look here, the jumped 525 days after the halving. This one jumped 368 days after the halving. So will Bitcoin rise? In my honest opinion, and you have to do your own research, don't just quote me on this, but in my honest opinion, yes, I believe Bitcoin will jump and have a bull market after this. However, keep in note, this is over the long term, the long run. This will not jump in a matter of one day trade. This happened in a 525 day period, and this one happened in a 368 day period. So does it look good and does things look green for Bitcoin? Absolutely. But do I think you can make a big profit once this 10 days hit right here? Once this 10 days hit and Bitcoin gets cut in half? not necessarily. It's a long-term type of process, not a short-term one. So this is what the average YouTuber won't tell you, is that people will believe that once this halving happens, that this price will have a tremendous jump right away. However, when we look at these charts of when these halvings happen, like this first halving here, the second halving here, look, it took some time for it to jump up. This is a big gap right here. So I expect that Bitcoin will have that type of jump in the next 6 to 12 months. However, in one day or 1 week, I don't think it's going to go that quickly. We are still currently, right now, we are in the second accumulation right here. So we had this first accumulation right here. We had this expansion part where it jumped up a little bit. Our second accumulation, we're trying to gather ourselves. And I believe after this halving, yes, in time, this will go up even more. So it's looking good for Bitcoin. However, to jump in right now and expect to get a big gain on the day that the halving happens, I relatively just believe that it will stay the same. However, you can do whatever you feel. This is only my personal opinion, so don't quote me on this. Don't get mad at me if it goes any different way. However, from doing my research, this is what I'm getting from this. Now, the last thing I can really say is the only speed bump I can see that will affect Bitcoin, going up on the rise after this halving is the S&P 500, and this is the economy as of right now. We are in a pretty big pandemic, pretty struggle. As you can see, we took the hit already, and we're starting to rise. However, companies really aren't opening up yet. Most of this is from government funding, and we are actually in one of the biggest debts that we've ever been in, in history. So how that's going to affect, we've never really experienced this. I don't know how to really predict this all, but that's one thing you do have to take account of when you're doing the research. So I hope you guys really liked this video. I hope this was informative to you on this Bitcoin halving. If it was, comment down below what you think. If you see anything that I think I said wrong, comment that down too. I always appreciate feedback. Just make sure you subscribe, like this video, guys. That's the most important thing for me, and really helps my channel out. And we are going to jump back into stocks very shortly.